Eyesight is a preventative safety feature in Subaru vehicles that tracks conditions in the road and, if necessary, has the ability to automatically brake. You can immediately identify any Subaru vehicle with Eyesight by the presence of the two cameras on either side of the rearview mirror up front. When the Eyesight system detects an event that would require an automatic braking to activate, then you're going to get a couple of notifications in the cockpit. One is activation of the heads-up display. There are a series of red bars that light up, and those are located in between the bars that you are used to seeing from the lane departure function. And then you'll also get a message on your dashboard in between the gauges that will indicate automatic braking. If it is a severe event, then you're also going to feel this quite significantly. It feels like ABS brake activation, and there's also a pretty significant grinding noise that happens, and that's why I found it quite startling the first time it happened to me. Unfortunately, I don't have a dash cam in my car at the moment, so what I'm going to do is take a hyper-realistic approach here. I created these model cars in my wood shop, and I'm going to demonstrate these different scenarios on a cardboard track. We are going to be sitting in this Subaru Outback with Eyesight. It is an Onyx edition, so I made it out of black walnut. And then to help us out, I've enlisted this Subaru WRX as an accessory vehicle. Of course, the Eyesight system is a pretty cool piece of technology that greatly enhances the safety of these vehicles, and there are a number of legitimate applications for it. Somebody pulls out in front of you, somebody cuts you off, there's any event that would require an emergency braking, it helps reduce your reaction time. But I found these 4 situations in which that Eyesight system initiated automatic braking without a legitimate need. Situation 1 is, I think, the number one problem. This happened to me when I had about only 60 miles behind the wheel of my new Subaru Outback, and this happens when a car turns off in front of you onto a side street. In this scenario, it's possible for the Eyesight system to think that that car is still in your lane and has stopped or significantly slowed down, even though you are on track to safely pass that vehicle. And even if they were to slam on their brakes, you could safely, with little effort, navigate around them. But the Eyesight system took over, initiated a very hard brake, ABS grinding noise, and the cars behind me also had to make a very rough stop. And I found this experience very alarming. Fortunately, that hasn't happened since. I'm not sure if I've unconsciously or consciously adjusted my driving style or if the car has somehow gotten used to it, but so far in the next 1,000 miles, I have not experienced another event like this. Situation 2 is going to be all too familiar for people who have to navigate congested areas, cities, highway commutes, and this is if somebody merges in front of you with a relatively narrow space, or tries to make a last-minute exit in front of you, or any other mechanism in which they're closing up a gap in front of you. This happened to me. It was a much less severe braking event than what happened in the one that I just talked about, but it's still activated in the situation and is something that I'm not really sure how I can avoid that by an adjustment to my driving style. And of course, there's a spectrum of events like this that can happen, and in some instances, automatic braking may be valuable. But for me, in this case, if you're paying attention, this is not something that should have initiated an unconscious braking event. The third situation that resulted in an unwanted activation of automatic braking for me was I was behind a manual transmission vehicle at a stoplight. They had a very choppy transmission response, which resulted in them accelerating off the line, then significantly slowing, and then accelerating, and then significantly slowing. And I was able to track that behavior and drive appropriately, but Eyesight felt the need to initiate a little bit of automatic braking because they were afraid of me rear-ending that vehicle, even though I was, again, safely tracking that behavior, and I didn't think that that was an appropriate scenario for that sort of response. Finally, sometimes Eyesight activates without any apparent reason. Maybe it's a shadow in the pavement, a crack, something that's not perceived to us as a threat, but that Eyesight seems to believe warrants a brake response. And that's pretty jarring when you get those heads-up display in the dashboard events and maybe you slow or come to a stop. And there's really nothing you can do to avoid or anticipate those sorts of events. Fortunately, this happened to me twice in the first 50 miles and hasn't happened again in the following 1,000 miles. Hopefully in the future it continues to not have false activations in that manner. This is definitely not a knock on Subaru. This equipment can be deactivated. I definitely support them including it as standard equipment, and I still keep mine on despite these events. I have adjusted my driving style, and if you've found this video, it's probably because you have experienced similar events, or maybe you are like myself and you're buying your first vehicle with this equipment. Um, I still think it's good. It's just, it has a few bugs, and you may need to change your driving habits a little bit to accommodate it. Hopefully, the pros outweigh the cons of implementing this safety feature, but if not, you always do have the option to turn it off. I'm not an expert on these topics. I'm just a guy with a Subaru and an iPhone, but if you do appreciate this content or find value in it, I'd really appreciate it if you click that subscribe button. But either way, I really appreciate you guys spending the time to watch my channel and being a part of this community. Thank you very much for watching.